And we also, today, we're going to go over just the stats, and then go over some social engineering, the UCF visit recap, the new team addition, and then upcoming conferences, and then we'll close it out. I'm looking to spend maybe 5 to 6 minutes on each one. So with that said, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And then I'm just going to go desktop because I'm going to go back and forth on a few different things. Here we go, share screen. Here, exit out here, get out of this. Okay, go here. All right, just to go over the statistics today for both Logis Coin and LightPay Coin. Logis Coin, we're at $17.30. A masternode is $17,303. You look at the market today, in general, it's red all the way around. No big surprise in terms of, we had a Bitcoin, a BTC pullback, so it's around 7,000 now. But just to dive in on the stats, what we have here, $370 per payout for Logis for each masternode on the rewards. And looking at the statistics here, ROI 48 days, 139 masternodes. Increase from last week, 52% in terms of the percentage of coins locked up, which I think is good, not necessarily at the 70% that we have within the LPC community, but yet it's still robust, and it's higher than the vast majority of masternodes in terms of percentage coins locked up. If we were to look at the trends over since launching on masternodes online, we still have that positive upward trend movement. Let me see if I can move this over here so it's not in the way. Positive upward trend movement in terms of the price action. If you were to look at it relative to BTC, it's tracking relatively well against Bitcoin and the US dollar. Still positive upward trend, which I think is a good thing. But for the most part, good news. LGS is going to list on Cryptopia in the next few days. We listed, the wallets are now open, so within the next 24 hours, so excuse me, it will be live. And also, if you were to move into LightPay Coin, and that's some good news for, Logis Coin investors as well. For LPC, $4.71. $4.67 in terms of the price action, just the general pullback. All these ads, they're driving me nuts. All right, 59 days on ROI, almost 60 days, 2 months for a full return on investments, almost 73% in terms of percentage of coins locked up, $4,676 in terms of a full masternode. Still positive, still a positive moving trend since launching on masternodes online, and we've been tracking relatively well. But if you look at the bottoms, in terms of the pullbacks and where they've been happening, still positive and still moving in an upwards direction, even on the pullback. So I tend to look at where the dips are happening, and when the dips happen, are we still moving in a positive direction? And yes, that tends to be the case. We're still moving. We're getting higher lows each and every time as the number of days move on as well. And that's in terms of the US dollar. We're still tracking relatively doing well compared to Bitcoin. As Bitcoin is continuing to move up, we're still maintaining our position relative to BTC and still having some positive upward movement as a result of the work that we continue to do despite BTC's increase in dominance and increase in overall valuation as well. 1,493 active masternodes, almost 1,500. Initially, we set out a goal to have 1,000 masternodes by December, and we have surpassed that within the first few months, and looks like we may be around 2,000 to 3,000 well over 3,000 masternodes by the time we hit December. So in 3 months, we're at roughly 1,500. Say in another 3 months, if the trend continues, we'd be well at 3,000 masternodes, which I think is great. A market cap around 9.5 million as well, with a volume of around 1 million and some change, and a nominal price $4.67. Okay, so that's what we have so far in terms of the price action on LPC. UCF visit recap. Now, on the recap for the University of Central Florida, Patrick and Adam, or Ace, in addition to myself, we went to the University of Central Florida. We had the kickoff meeting with Christian Horan, who is our point of contact with the University of Central Florida. We issued our first task order to begin work on the point of sale devices, or at least the wireframes, the OOAD, the object-oriented analysis and design, and the initial build of the prototype of the software for the point of sale devices. And we had that discussion for about 30 minutes or so, and then we went to the lecture room where we had a recording. We gave a general overview of the cryptocurrency industry. Adam has the slides, and at some point we will be distributing both the video recording and the PowerPoints associated with it. We expect to give the PowerPoints or the presentation in different areas. So it's the case, we'll be going around campus talking to the different groups. So right now, it was solely, this kickoff, that meeting that we had was with a brown bag with the human factors group, which are primarily some engineers, some psychologists who are getting their masters and PhDs in human factors. So in human factors, focus on areas like usability. They focus on areas such as UX and UI. And we also met a lot of different students who were interested, didn't know that much about cryptocurrencies at all, but were interested. And also they had friends who were interested as well. And those human factors students are actually reaching out to us to have conversations about doing work within LPC and also within Lumina itself in terms of the AR work, the augmented reality and virtual reality work going on within Lumina. And once again, if any members have expertise in AR and VR or UI, UX, and are interested in participating in doing some of the work within Lumina, just feel free to reach out to me on the Discord or any member of the team, and then we can direct you to Patrick and the folks over at Lumina to get you signed up on Expert Source Pro. And you actually get paid with LPC. I think that's one of the great parts too. If you want to stay in the cryptocurrency, that's fine. You have the opportunity to get paid in LPC. So I think it was a great meeting. We had an opportunity to engage with the students. I actually saw one of my professors, hadn't seen him in over almost a good, let's say this, almost a good 15 years. So it was a great human factors professor. Did a lot of research for the Department of Defense. So it was a great guy. So it was a great opportunity to interact with some of my old professors. As I mentioned before, I'm a graduate of the University of Central Florida, the first graduate of the PhD program in industrial and organizational psychology. So now that we've had that initial kickoff, we submitted the task orders to our point of contact, who will submit that to the Office of Research and Commercialization. We can start getting a lot of coding done, getting the students and the professors who are going to be involved in the process only within the human factors area within the psych department first, getting those folks set up with their development environments, the code repositories, and just some of the standards that we have in place for development, the programming languages that we will be using to build out the middleware for the application, in this case, the point of sale device. And then we'll keep you guys updated in terms of what's happening with the development of the point of sale software. And this is the first task order deals with the software. We'll subsequently have task orders related to hardware, or depending on where we are in the process, either partnering or just being able to build it out ourselves in partnership with UCF. So that's where we are in terms of the initial kickoff and the meeting at the University of Central Florida. Let me pause to see if there are any questions.
There was one question in the Q&A about whether or not it was possible to contribute to the Lumina projects from abroad, and the answer to that is absolutely. So.
Yes, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth.
That's right. I am the horse.
Yeah, so Patrick is the point of contact and being able to do some of that work. So just feel free. And once again, paying all LPC. Now, new team addition. Considering that we have the sister project or the support project of LGS, it's the case that we'd like to be as much vertically integrated as we can, being involved in the research, the development, the commercialization, the logistics, the sales, the marketing, all aspects. To the degree that we can't, we will consider partnerships. But I think it makes sense having the ability to be able to distribute or be involved in understanding all of the aspects of the supply chain and being able to monitor the build and the shipment of the point of sale devices or the ATM machines. So it's the case that we recently added a member to the LPC and LGS group. He is a colleague of mine in two different organizations, actually three. We attended Howard University in Washington, D.C. For undergraduate. We were both collegiate wrestlers on a conference championship wrestling team. He's a champion like myself, winning both the individual championship and the team championship. At the same time, after we graduated, we went on different paths. He majored in business. He majored in business, graduated from Howard University, as I did. I subsequently went into the military. He actually went into business. But later on, a decade later, I was working at IBM. I was in a global HR advisor, where I was responsible for building selection systems for hardware and software engineers around the world. My area of focus was primarily in the BRIC countries. You're talking about Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So those were the areas where I had my focus in building out selection systems for bringing on both software and hardware engineers. Colin Thompson also was employed at IBM. If most of you don't know, IBM is International Business Machines. He also worked in Asia Pacific. So it's the case now. He is a person who will be serving within Logis and also helping out with operations in LPC as well. Once again, just a graduate of Howard University Business School. He lives in China. He actually came back to the States not too long ago, where we met in person. He came to the LPC office. We had a discussion. We sat down. He really wanted to understand our strategy, or how we would move forward in the business, and how he could contribute in terms of his experience in global supply chain. And considering his expertise in supply chain, his years of business experience, I thought that he would be a great addition. We decided to bring him on. So you'll be hearing a lot more from Colin as we begin to move forward with both LPC and LGS. I think he's a great addition. I've known him for well over 20 years. Actually had an opportunity to wrestle him, even though I was in a smaller weight class, 118 at the time, even though I'm almost double that now. He was a heavier athlete. I wouldn't say heavyweight, but I think it was like 176. I think that was his weight class. We even battled a few times wrestling, but great guy. Not only I have that experience with him in undergrad, but also had that experience with him also at IBM. So, and so it seems only natural now, bringing that Fortune 100 tech experience into the blockchain or into the cryptocurrency space to help us to really build out this organization, both with LPC and with LGS. So I'll take a quick pause to see if there are any questions around the new team member that we've added. And he'll be coming on to webinars, even though it will be late at night for him. He'll be coming on to webinars as well and giving some updates as he's conducting operations within China. It's the case. He lives in Shanghai. He is the business operations for LGS, LPC. We officially registered to do business in China. So that's going to help us a lot in if it's the case that we have parts of the hardware built within that particular region of the world. So it's just to be competitive. And that's one of the reasons why we actually had him in that particular geography to help us in this space. So I'll take a quick pause there and see if there are any questions around the new addition.
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. We're rolling. It's 10:18. I think we might just do it. Upcoming conferences. Okay, so I have 12 minutes to talk about conferences. Great. Excuse me, guys. As you know, we have to build our brand. We have to let people know that we're in this space. We have to let people know that LPC and LGS, we're building the next generation, or building the infrastructure to support the next generation of cryptocurrencies. Specifically, when you think about LPC, when you think about LGS, when you think about masternodes, not a lot of people know about masternodes. Masternodes only represents about 1% of the total cryptocurrency market. Total cryptocurrency market is around 230-ish billion. And the masternode market itself, as I pointed out in the last presentation, is about 1% of that. Not because a lot of people don't know about this third generation or evolved next generation of cryptocurrencies. Having the ability, having masternodes, the masternodes can be in a virtual environment, it can be a desktop computer, and it's the case, it's energy efficient, it's clean, in the sense that you can have a virtual private server and not necessarily have a miner that consumes a lot of energy, a very small energy consumption footprint. People have to know about that. People will have to know, not only retail investors, but also corporate entities as well. We already have some corporate investors, and they're using the masternodes within their organizations for a variety of different purposes. So we have to begin to brand. We have to let people know. And the best way to do that is to go to conferences. In our particular case, we did the World Blockchain Conference that was in Atlantic City. We're also doing the World Blockchain Conference that's going to be in Hollywood, Florida in December. And that's generally a conference for mostly retail, but then also some investors, say venture capitalists, and at the same time, some corporate institutions as well, but not a high concentration, and that's not the focus. But that's a conference that we will be attending on December the 4th. We're already locked in as a sponsor, and we will be speaking there as well. The second the conference that I want to focus on now is one where it is focused exclusively on businesses, because we want to build out the point of sale devices, and we want to have ATM machines in a variety of different places across the world. It makes sense to go to conferences that have a high concentration of corporate entities, where we can build those corporate relationships. For instance, now, if my estimate of the percentage of masternodes owned by retail investors is somewhere around the tune of around 90%. So 90% retail own masternodes. My estimate, based upon the individuals that I know and the corporate entities that I know, is around anywhere from 5 to 10% of the masternodes in our network. They're owned by corporate entities. And these corporate entities, and as I mentioned before, I think it makes sense that we should have a larger or a proportional representation of masternode owners on the retail side, on the institutional side as well. And I think at the same time, when we talk about institutions, educational institutions as well, I know once we've crossed some milestones and are able to have the point of sale device, myself, I will be making a contribution to the University of Central Florida in terms of a masternode, but they can only get the masternode if the transaction is handled through our point of sale device. So it's the case that I'm just not going to give coins over to a wallet and have them deployed. They must use the point of sale device to acquire it, and it will be considered as a donation. And on the point of sale device, you click donation. I'll make the donation. All LPC. They'll acquire the masternode and deploy it as an institutional asset. So focusing on business, with that said, we have sponsored a conference in San Francisco that's going to be October the 18th. We are a silver sponsor of this conference. It's the Blockchain Summit. It's exclusively a business event. So you see the likes of the sponsors of Dell, HCL, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, and SAP. Those aren't small startups. Those aren't small blockchain-based companies. It's the case, these are the tech giants in the space. So I think it only makes sense that we present. We're scheduled to serve on a panel to talk about our technology, how it's used within corporate entities, and how it can be used within different businesses. And once again, we're positioning the masternode as an institutional asset that can be leveraged within a business for a variety of different purposes. One, in the case of a point of sale device, if you have a point of sale device that is backed by a masternode, there's no need for you to pay fees to a Visa or an American Express or a MasterCard. If it's the case, you are a corporate entity decides to use the payment for securing the blockchain for a variety of different purposes, kicking off an R&D project, or engaging in some using those funds for marketing efforts, or being able to pay within operations within an institution, pay employees within an organization, using the rewards coming for protecting the LPC or LGS blockchain. That's a very compelling case when you think about the current strategies that are, or current businesses that are in place, particularly as it relates to point of sale devices. Point of sale devices, just to give a summary, if you're a merchant and using a POS device and you're doing swipes, it's the case you're paying 2 to 3% on all the revenue coming into that, coming through that particular device. And as I mentioned before, both Kroger and Walmart, they've sued Visa because of the fees and the fines. And even in California now, Kroger has started the process of phasing out Visa because of the fees. If we're able to, and yes, we are moving down the path to make some interactions and meet with key stakeholders within the Kroger organization to see, Kate, and don't quote and don't like put out on social media now, hey, LPC has a relationship with Kroger. No, we're making inroads. It's the case that we're trying to find the appropriate point of contact to have those conversations. Perhaps I was premature in saying that, because now it's going to be out in the wild. But that's what we're looking to do. So anybody from Kroger, if you're watching, holler at me. No. But yes, that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day. So we have to brand and we have to communicate. And I think being able to attend this conference and talk about the masternode, which is only 1% of this very small cryptocurrency space. If we can get in front of these big tech giants and begin to make our case, perhaps we could find a partner or two. in an IBM, my former employer and Colin's former employer. And so it's the case we can build those relationships. And I think it makes sense to be able to speak and make our case that we are a very competitive organization, not only in our industry, but moving out of the cryptocurrency industry and competing against the incumbents. I think we're competitive now. We have to be able to build out our infrastructure in terms of point of sale devices. We have to looking and make the case and explain to people what masternodes are. It's an education process. People won't necessarily buy when you first explain what cryptocurrencies are. First, you have to make it past that challenge of just explaining what cryptocurrencies are and talk about the different segments or different types of cryptocurrencies. Sometimes you have utility tokens. You have some aspects of cryptocurrencies that may be considered as securities. Then at the same time, you have different consensus mechanisms. And at the same time, within our space, you have masternodes. So these are some of the things that we have to begin to educate our client base or target client base about. And this is the main purpose why we're going to attend and actually have sponsored the San Francisco Blockchain Summit. That's the first, the second conference that we will be attending on the 18th of October. There will be members of the community that will be coming along as well. So if you want to come to San Jose and have that conversation, just feel free, and we can move forward from there. Our next conference is actually in Colombia, and this is the Blockchain Smart Summit. That's on Sábado 20th de Octubre de 2018. Well, that basically means that it's the 20th of October. And if you notice, the other conference is on the 18th. So it's the case that we are an official sponsor of the Blockchain Smart Conference in Colombia. And this is once again consistent with our efforts of expanding globally to have a global reach, not only within Asia, Asia Pacific, or across Europe or across North America, but also South America as well. So we're also looking at exchanges where we can begin to launch within that particular geography, particularly when you think about what's happening right now in Venezuela and the hyperinflation that's going on. And the location of this conference is Bucaramanga, Colombia. Because Bucaramanga is about a good 200 miles from Venezuela, I think it makes sense to actually begin to make a case that masternodes, LPC, LGS should be deployed and used within that country, within Venezuela, to help the people in terms of what's happening, so they can find an appropriate place to store their wealth as their currency goes through hyperinflation. And I think it only makes sense to have the conversation. We are an official sponsor. As you can see, we scroll down, it's a one-day conference, and we're already listed here. Because we just locked down the silver sponsorship at the San Francisco conference, they don't have our information up yet, but when it is, I'll post it out to the team. As you can see, sponsors such as Kraken, a very large exchange, I think it's a top 50 exchange, and other sponsors as well. But LGS is an official sponsor of that conference, and we're going to represent guys. So and we'll also have an investor who's officially coming down with the team. At this point, it's just myself, and then that individual will be coming with me to the conference in Colombia. But once again, we're official sponsor of the conference, and we'll be speaking out, have a translator. My Spanish is not or I don't know exactly the language, perhaps they're speaking Portuguese, but my Spanish is not that good, but I can say, ¿Dónde estás? Or ¿Cómo se dice? How do you say whatever? And I can manage. But yeah, I'm going to have an interpreter who will help me to convey the message about LPC, LGS, and what we're doing in the masternode space. So I'll take a pause there to see if there are any questions at all.
No open questions. You're kind of answering them as they come up. So far, so good.
Okay, and so good. We're at it's 31 minutes in, and I have no other agenda items. I think this is a record. We can make it official.
Unbelievable.
It's believable, Pat.
Just kidding.
It's believable because you're experiencing it right now. We're 30 minutes in.
That's right.
Giving a good update. But let me know. I do want to talk about. Oh yeah, yes. This last thing, issues around social engineering. Quick pause. On the Discord channel, the hackers are getting more and more sophisticated in terms of how they socially engineer investors and are able to get them to give up their private keys, either through a dump of the debug log or a variety of other methods of just helping them, sharing their screen, and then getting private keys associated with a masternode or nodes. And it's not only happening to just retail investors as well. We know of it happening to others outside of the retail space. And this is something it's not good. It needs to stop. Recently, and I'll tell you the profiles of some of the hackers, because now I'm instead of spending my time doing some development, I do think it makes sense to move down the path to understand the profiles of some of these hackers. So I've taken some of my time to go hacker hunting. They're not hacking a computer, but they're hacking you to get your keys. And that's one of the main things. The primary goal is protecting the blockchain. Secondary goal is, along with that, be able to protect investors who are protecting the blockchain with their masternodes. So there's a technology component in being able to protect the blockchain, but also there's a psychological component around the social engineering that's taking place to have members expose and compromise their private keys. So I'll just talk about a couple profiles and what we're doing to address the issue of the social engineers, the people who are socially engineering the investors. And it's sad to see, and I hate getting a report every day. Every day I get a report of somebody having either LPC masternode stolen. You're talking about $4,000, $5,000 at this point in terms of funds being stolen from somebody, and that hurts. It hurts me when I hear about it, but I can only empathize with individuals who are actually going through the process. At the same time, that's on LPC, but now you have individuals in LGS having their masternodes or their private keys stolen. You're talking about 1,000 LGS was approximately $17,000. That's a lot of money. So now it's at the point where, because of my background in the military and then moving into the government, doing investigations, I'm doing some investigating now. What is the profile of a hacker? And like I said, I've identified just a couple so far, and I'll give you some insights. The first one was a person, in the way I discovered it, a member identified the avatar and the unique ID number associated with the hacker. Then after I looked around in the community, couldn't find them, did a search and found the hacker, and I engaged them. I sent them a friend request. I was looking to have a conversation. There were some words going back and forth, some taunts going back and forth, quite confident in their interactions with me, in the sense that they think that they're not going to get caught. But it's the case. I say, at the end of the day, I will catch you. I will catch you. One way or another, I will catch you. And this particular hacker said, I just want to let you know that you guys are doing great. Gave us a compliment. He said, this is the biggest pump and dump scheme in the history of pump and dumps. He said, yeah, you're doing much better than our coin is. So that immediately let me know that it was a developer coming from another team. He said, what's happening is that they're stealing the money from, they're stealing LPC and LGS. They're going to an exchange. They're selling the LPC and LGS and turning around and purchasing their crappy coin. Whoever it is, if you're stealing from a project to cash those funds out and purchase your coin that's not doing well, that's crappy. The developers are crappy, the project, the team's crappy, and it doesn't make sense for you to steal from somebody else just so you can feel better and increase your nominal price of your coin and your market value by stealing from somebody else. So that's the first profile, being able to, it's a developer or a set of developers who know how to get a member to dump their debug logs from their wallet or get them to give up their private keys. So it's a developer that's stealing from our projects, cashing out those funds on an exchange, and then purchasing their crappy coin. That's the first level. So we have competitors, not even say competitors, you have other masternode coins and other developers from teams stealing our money or stealing investors' money from the communities and then investing it back into their crappy coin. That's not right. That's the first profile. And right now, well, let me describe the second profile and then tell you what we're doing at this point. So now it's internal within the cryptocurrency space, and it's developers from other projects, pretending to be me, pretending to be moderators, pretending to be trusted members, because you only give your debug logs, and some people don't even know how you can get the private keys and information from the debug log and steal your cryptocurrency from those logs, or even taking the private keys. So they're using some aspect of trust from a member that they're perceiving that they're interacting with. Some individuals are smart. They're coming back and immediately sending me a post saying, "Hey, Damon, did you send me this request?" And I'll say, "Obviously not. This is a scammer. Get out. Get as much information that you can, though." So they get the IDs. They report the IDs back to me. There was another case, and this is the second profile I was able to identify, where the hacker was not only, and right now we would think that the first line of defense is identifying the avatar first, then looking at the ID, and then comparing that to the ID of the impersonated member. So for instance, myself, so a hacker may have Azanthix hash, then 3, 4, 5, 6, but my ID is Azanthix hash, say 5894. Because those are two different IDs, you can distinguish between the two, and once again, go into that right panel, click, and send me a DM. That's the way you can recognize. That's one way you can recognize. But this second profile is a bit more sophisticated in terms of how they're hacking. This individual went and tried to compromise a member, and the member was very savvy. First, when they were engaged, they saw my tag, my avatar, and my number, my unique ID number, and then they went to the right-hand panel of the Discord, clicked on my profile. They saw the same name, they saw Azanthix, they saw my hash, and then they saw the exact same number. At that point, they said, "Well, this could be Azanthix. I could go ahead and trust them." Until they clicked on my profile and sent me a note and said, "Hey, did you send this?" I said, "No." Like, but this guy, he has your same ID, he has your same name, he has your same ID number, and he speaks Russian. Do you speak Russian? I was like, "No, I don't speak Russian." It was a case that he was an English speaker, but his preference was for to be able to speak Russian. So it was a case that they initially started the chat in English, but then the investor who also spoke Russian said, yes, I speak Russian. And they started chatting back and forth in Russian. So I asked the investor, I'm like, was he someone who was good in English? His written English was very good, but also his written Russian was good as well. And he would say, well, he speaks Russian, he writes Russian, and he feels comfortable because we started out in English, but as we started typing and going back and forth, he wanted to switch to a language that he was more comfortable, so he switched back to Russian. So at that point, we recognized that it's an individual who's not in the community, not belonging to LGS LPC, and is bilingual, able to not only just speak English or type and read English, but also able to type and read Russian. So just because the investor was smart enough to say, hey, you know, I speak Russian, I also speak English, and I type and speak both very well. And I said, well, in your assessment, do you think that he's a very good English speaker who just happens to know Russian well? I'm saying, no, he was a very good English writer and speaker, but yet it's the case that his preference was for the Russian language, to type and conversate in the Russian language. So just want to let you know that those are the profiles: bilingual, not necessarily just solely speaking English, not a member of the community, stealing or attempting to steal your cryptocurrency. Now you say to yourself, Damon, what are you going to do that this is happening? Internally, we've already started a process for finding another home in terms of our community being able to protect you, and at the same time have a higher level of security and confidence in the identity management, because this is an identity management issue. If it's the case, we're able to go into an encrypted environment where you're having multiple forms of authentication, not only with your mobile phone, but also with your computer and various social sites like your GitHub account, your Facebook account, your Twitter account. Then that begins to build some level of credibility around the evidence and identity, at least from a digital footprint perspective, just to know that, hey, this person's identity checks out because they're on various social sites. We're connected either by phone, by the computer. So because that information is linked to an identity management system or an account where there's multiple levels of encryption and multiple levels of authentication, in a sense, that's a bit more, that's a bit better, much better, in my opinion, than just a Discord channel where you can pay a few dollars and get a premium account, where you can, and I found this out in my investigation as well. So it's the case that you can buy a premium account to both change your avatar and change your unique ID number to match anybody else's within Discord. Because that's a premium feature within Discord that members can pay, I immediately reached out to Discord IT security. Having the identifiers of the individuals who switched their avatar and their ID number, it's the case that Discord IT security can immediately identify those members based upon the information that I've already given to them. I explain the context of who I am, how I've been impersonated, how members of the moderators have been impersonated. At the same time, so-called community members, trusted community members who are offering to help, being compromised as well. And because the LPC LGS community, they are part of Discord, and we have tens of thousands of members, and it's the case we are also members of the Discord community. And because I put this out in a letter to Discord IT, they immediately came back and said, thank you for your detailed response in terms of members of your community being compromised. They are members of our community as well, and we will work with you to get rid of these impersonators who are stealing tens of thousands of dollars on a daily basis from members of the community. So just to let you know, we're doing two things. One, we're investigating another platform whereby there are multiple levels of authentication, where it will be much more difficult to impersonate a member. At the same time, we are also working with the Discord IT security team in order to hunt down the hackers, because some of these hackers have premium accounts. Those are linked to either bank accounts or credit cards, but if thinking of a mind of a hacker, and if I'm using some type of credit card, easily go to Walmart and put in some fake name, fake address, buy a little prepaid debit card and pay from that. But at least you would have some information on how these people are beginning to compromise members of our community, and Discord will be working to help us to solve that problem. So I'll take a quick pause there to see if there are any questions. I know I spent almost 15 minutes on this, but I think it's important to discuss.
Yep. So we have a question from the group, which is, do you think the hackers were part of one group doing a coordinated attack?
There's no evidence to suggest it. The only thing that I do know that it's one or more developers. It could be from a team, or it could be from multiple teams, because right now we're doing well. People are talking about us because we are doing well, and people are talking about us. People are targeting us. And because they're targeting us, they're not working in our best interest, and obviously they may be paying themselves some funds, but then putting the remaining amounts back into their coins. But I don't know if it's a coordinated effort where the dev team of a particular coin is actually having a meeting to determine, okay, my shift is from the first 8 hours of the day, from the beginning of my 8 hours to the end of 8 hours, and then another set of either one or more hackers / devs are coming in to attack the team. But right now we know that it's the case that some hackers belong to development teams, because the chat conversation that I had with that one hacker was more along the lines of, hey, your coin is doing better than ours. We don't like you. It's the case. I think it's deplorable that they would stoop to such a low level and at the same time tell us what they're doing. I think one of the ways in which I was looking to get more information was to try to build some level of trust with the hacker, to say, well, what's going on? Why are you stealing from us? And obviously there's some things that I'm saying, and we're going back and forth, kind of joking in a way, trying to build some bond through either laughing. Yes, he laughed a couple times, I laughed a couple times, but then I know at the end of the day it's serious, because the members of our community, they're having their funds compromised. When we built a bond, then I say, well, hey, it's the case. Open up, identify yourself, pretend it never happened. If you give the member their funds back, and then they say, which member? We've stolen from so many. Ha ha ha. Post the member's ID. And then I say, if you don't want to send it back to them, then it's the case, hey, send it to this address. So I gave them an address that I created for LGS, but then they began to recognize, hey, this guy's just trying to pull me out in the open. So they said, see you later, chump. And then they left. But I don't know if it's a coordinated group, but I know it's from a development team, a coin development team.
Okay, and then just sort of a comment from a community member, which is the short ID can be mimicked, but the dev ID cannot, so we should check against that.
Sure. So everything that I'm getting now from all of the community members, and come to me with anyone, I would recommend to anyone when someone's attempting to help them from the community, proactively reaching out. Members of the team will not proactively reach out. These members are mimicking the moderators, mimicking the dev team, mimicking myself to say, okay, I'm going to actively reach out, get all of the information that you can. So get a screen capture and pass that information along to me. And as soon as I get it, I'm passing it along to Discord IT security. Very
good. right, let's see. No other open questions at this particular point.
Okay, that's all that I have, guys. Thanks for the time. I think we're still under an hour. So
Wait, sorry, we got one more. Oh, I believe this question. Oh, okay, all right. Well, that was a joke question. It was, when are we going to the moon? I think was the question.
We always get those. We always get those questions. Hey, well, here's my response to you. You can go to the moon anytime that you want.
That's
I
right.
have a little 3-year, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and we do a lot of imagining of going to different places. We go to Mars every day. So close your eyes and you can take that trip.
There you go.
As much LPC and LGS that you want.
Maybe that should be the next webinar. Maybe we should just have like a opening 15-minute meditation, picturing ourselves going to the moon. That sounds fun.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's what astronauts do. That's what pilots do when they're training for missions. They do a lot of simulation. They do a lot of speaking and imagining things as they're in the cockpit, as they're in space, or as they're preparing for different flight. The Blue Angels, they do it all the time. Man, they sit next to each other, they close their eyes. Blue Angels, these are stunt pilots within the military. They'll sit down and then they'll talk about a different flight scenario and how close the wings are, and they can imagine the left wing tip of one fighter jet touching or being within 4 to 5 feet of another wing of the other fighter jet. And they imagine these scenarios of navigating and maneuvering their planes. So I think it's fascinating. But you can do that if you'd like, guys. But it's the case. The value, I think at some point, the price action will actually be reflected and catch up with the value of the organization. Oh, and one more thing, one more quick thing. We'll let you know, but we've been in contact, and we're actually having discussions now with the individuals from the Fox Business Network in terms of being able to come on to the show that's on the network and begin to talk about LPC. So that's a thing that's actually in progress, but we'll let you know as more things as it progresses. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Take care.